plan to do today is show you the process, right? And then I'm going to break you out into into breakout rooms so you understand from a student point of view what that looks like. I have been talking a lot about breakout rooms in Meet because we're finding that with Zoom, when students go into Zoom breakout rooms, first of all, you can only be in one at a time. You cannot be in all of them. And with Meet, when you're setting up all these different Google Meets, you can actually be in all of them at once. And so what we're finding though is that with Zoom, even though the teacher has turned off the chat is on in the breakout room. When the teacher goes in, when the students go into the breakout room, the chat happens. And then I just recently got an email just this morning about a teacher who found out that there was some bullying going on in breakout rooms only after she received the chat transcript. So that was after it had happened. Of course, yes, okay, it's a good thing that she had the transcript turned on. However, we want to avoid being in those situations. And I think a big part of that is if the students know that you can be in every single breakout room at once, yes, it's loud, but I think if they know that, there's that piece of accountability so that things that oftentimes happen in like a regular classroom when you have breakout rooms and they're all in breakout rooms, right? Breakout rooms, they're in different corners of your room. They know that you're listening in at all times and that you have teacher ears and that you can hear everything. A Google Meet basically lives in its own tab in your browser. So you know that you can have a million tabs open at once. We all know this because we're teachers. And if you don't have a million tabs open at once, are you even a teacher? That's my question. So, but I have to say that this is what makes Google Meet so great. You can have all of these tabs open with all of these different breakout rooms, and you can drop into the different breakout rooms at any time. So this is how this works. I have it set up where you create a nickname, and a nickname makes the Google Meet session more, more secure, right? Nicknames prevent students from entering a Google Meet before you've joined, and it prevents rejoining a Google Meet after you leave. Of course, you have to be the last one out. I tell people all the time, you have to be the first one in because otherwise it's not open, and you must be the last person out. So you just have to make sure that kids are out. Now, I have heard that there have been some incidents where students have just hit the rejoin button. I'm telling people you should tell students to just go ahead and close the tab. That makes it really hard for them to rejoin. Yes, there are still kids who are copying and pasting in the Meet link, but this makes a different link and with a nickname in it. So this does make it a little bit more secure. And just so you know, what you're going to be doing with your students is you're going to be sharing the nicknamed room. You're not going to be sharing the actual URL. Okay. So it's sort of like a shortened link, and how the shortened link actually points to a longer link. It's sort of the same sort of idea. So what I'm going to do right now is, this is available to all of you in the EdTech Google Classroom. All right. And so I have a note here for teachers that you share the nicknamed URL with students so that you're sharing the nickname URL. And we'll go over that in just a minute. All right. So there are a couple things that you need to do ahead of time. The first one is you're going to get the mute tab extension. Now, I want to share with you that what that means, mute tab means that you're going to be muting the sound coming out of that tab. Okay. You're not muting the students. The students can still all hear each other. You just won't be able to hear them. That's what mute tab does. I had some folks who were very confused by that, and they thought that when they hit mute tab, that it muted all the students there. That is something that you cannot do in Google Meet. You cannot mute all the students at once. You just can't do that. You have to go through and mute one by one. Basically, if you get mute tab, it works great because you're just muting one tab. You're not muting all of them. You're just muting one of the tabs in the window. So the second thing I ask for you to do with this is to click and make a copy of the document. And the reason for that is it's just this down here where it says meet.google.com/lookup. It's just for that. You don't have to, if you are going to be, switching back and forth between tabs and you can, you're reading the instructions on one and you're creating a different document on the other, that's totally fine. But I just suggest making a copy of the document. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Click here. So here's my copy. All right. So then you need to have a plan when you do this. You don't just have to have a plan for how many rooms you want. You want to have a plan for how are they going to go from one room to the other. Unlike Zoom, Zoom's great because you can say, okay, these kids are going to go in room 1, these kids are going to go to room 2, and you hit a button and they just go to those rooms. Okay. Unlike Zoom, the kids are actually going to have to navigate from one room to the other. So what I suggest is that you have something in between for them to do, right? Maybe that's going to be their break time. So during their break time, you can say, all right, so we're going to break. I'd like you at the end of the break, I want you to go into Google Classroom. In Google Classroom, you're going to find the link to your breakout room. Go ahead and just click on that and you'll be in your breakout room. And probably in that same thing, it's going to be the assignment, right? This is what you're going to be working on with your group. Here you go. So I'm going to show you how you can do all that. So this is my copy. I know it says copy of creating breakout rooms. Great. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm deciding that I don't even remember how many people we have in here right now. I've got 18 people minus, so 17 people. I'm going to make 4 rooms. Okay. So I'm going to copy this link, Control C, Control V, Control V. Okay. Because we're in the main room already. I know that in the instructions I say make a main room and then make up all these other rooms. But if you have a main room that you've been going to this whole time, you don't have to make a new one, right? You're using that. That's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Roberts 1, Roberts 2, Roberts 3, and Roberts 4. Okay. So I have my rooms now, and you're probably thinking, really? How'd you do that? It's because it's all linked together, and because we already have Meet accounts. When I copy and paste that whole URL in, and I'll just go ahead and show you. Control C. I'm going to open a new tab. Control V. Enter. It just goes ahead and creates a room for me. So there it is. There's my room. Okay. And notice it says over here, Roberts 1. Yes, the URL is still up here. Okay. But notice it says authorized user too. So I think that has something to do with it being more secure. All right. So I've got all my numbers. Now I'm going to go into my Google Classroom.
So, question.
Yes.
Is it wise for those of us who do have a million tabs open in a window to open a second window just for this?
I would.
Okay.
That's what I've done when I've run large meetings where I've had people going into different breakout rooms and then switching breakout rooms. I make that a dedicated window because it just gets to be too much. Also, I tell people all the time, the Meet room is the one with the red dot. Well, the problem is that, like right now, as you can see in my window, I've got 2 red dots, right? Now, you don't want that to get all mixed up with everything else. And you know that when you have a lot of tabs open, those tabs become super tiny, right? So this makes it a lot better. Go in now, and this is where things like scheduling come in handy, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create, and I'm not going to assign any of you anything, but this would be where you could put in an assignment, right? But you could also put in material. So I'm just going to call this material because all I'm doing is giving you a link. So I'm going to call this Breakout 1, and I'm going to assign it to Ted, Todd, Robert, and Elvira. And I hope I said that correctly. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to schedule it for September 3rd. Oh, it's September 2nd today. I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm going to schedule it for 9:20 a.m. It is scheduled for the future. Isn't today the 2nd? Apparently it doesn't want, okay. It doesn't want me to do that right now. It's not enough in the future. Fine, whatever. Do it the night before. I'm going to go ahead and post it. Wait a minute before you go into the classroom. Okay, and I'm going to create another one. Oops, I forgot to put my link, didn't I? I'm going too fast. Now, the link that I want to put in is, here's my copy, this one. I'm not going to put in the actual link to the URL for the actual meet. But I do like Sarah's idea, which is great. I'm going to click on add, and I'm going to click on link. And I like to do it this way instead of just putting it in the description because it makes it nice and clean and it gives them a box to click on. Okay, there's that. Great. Save. Okay, and I'm going to create a second one. I'm, again, just doing material. I could just copy it once and put in Robert's too. Okay, add link. And I'm going to give this to, I went with 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Post. All right. And I'm going to do this all again. Breakout 3. Let's go ahead and try this out and see if this works. Roberts 3, add link, cool, and Caleb, Carlene, Manny, Darcy's actually not here, Dwayne and Allison. Okay, great, and I'm going to post it. All right. And I can see here, like I said, I like to add the link this way because it makes it nice and clean. It gives it a box. They just have to click on the box. It all works out. Okay, so now, and again, I really suggest that what you do is you give them you do this before a break. You say, okay, we're going to go into breakout rooms after break. You need to go into Google Classroom at the end of break and click on the link because you want them to leave the room that you're in right now. So what I'd like everyone to do right now, we're gonna play pretend here. What I'd like everyone to do right now is I want you to leave this room and go into the Google Classroom and join. But give me a second. I haven't opened them all. See, look, I already screwed up. How do you like that? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open the rest of them. Because you want to make sure that you open all of them. So I'm going to open this one. And by opening, I mean open all the way. So for instance, like this one is not really open. Oh, Todd is in there, so I did open it. So I'm going to hit, oh, and you guys are teachers. You guys are teachers, so it's a little bit different for you. You can enter without me being there. Okay, so I'm gonna mute this tab. You guys are already in there. I love it. Okay, so those of you who are in this room, I actually want you to leave this room.
To mute the tab not work, Lori?
Say that again?
Does right-clicking to mute the tab not work?
I don't know. I've never tried that. Dwayne has his hand up. And Dwayne, do you have a question? Let me open the third room.
Yeah, Laura, really quick.
Yep.
When you added the nickname to the end of the lookup link, that part doesn't appear to be highlighted or underlined.
It's not right.
Link.
Yeah, and that's why.
Is that necessary? Should I not have that?
It's not necessary. Don't worry about it, because that's why. So that's why I am doing the way I'm doing, which is copying the whole thing and then putting it in a new tab instead of clicking on it. Because I think if I just click on here, it's going to take whatever was the last link, right, that was linked up to. In fact, if I can click on it and tell you, yeah, all it says, and there's replace URL with this title. That's new. That's awesome. Okay, fine. But I don't really need that, right? I can just copy and paste that whole thing in.
Okay.
So
then just after that last slash mark, then just write your room name.
Right.
And just leave it like that. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so just so you know, those of you who are still in the room, I'm just going through and I'm muting myself in all the different rooms and also turning off my video. But I am, for all intents and purposes, I'm still in every single one of those rooms. All right, so, and the cool thing is that if you are really good at, moving your windows around, that's really fun. You can actually see all the rooms at once. I'm going to move my sessions next to each other, and I'm going to use something called, come on, are you going to work or not? No, you're not. Oh, it's not going to let me use, oh yeah, okay. I'm going to use something, this is called tab resize. You may or may not be able to see that right now, but I'm going to click on 4 and I will be able to see all 4 sessions at once. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to turn on my mic in all of the rooms. All right, thumbs up if you can hear me. Great. Well, what's really great about this, just so you know, is that what I just did was I used tab resize, and I can see all of you right now. So if you're up to no good, I can see that you're up to no good. Thankfully, you're not up to no good. Thank you. But you can't see me. You can hear me. So I become that, omnipresent sort of voice that comes over. I like this because I can use it to make general announcements to let the students know what's going on next. So what I suggest that you would do to get them all back into the room again is you would let them know, okay, kids, I want all of you to go back to the main room again. And you're going to say, well, where's my link? You can go ahead and copy and paste that link to the main room back into their breakout chats, or you can put it could be a permalink that you always have in your Google Classroom. So that's another way you could do it too. So there are a couple of different ways. It would just be however you want it to work. But right now, just so you know, I have all of you muted, so I can't hear any of the tabs right now, which is kind of cool.